Are you serious? Are you serious? I mean, is the world ready for the Big Mac? And I'm not joking about this, folks. The Singapore summit. You won't believe what's on the table. McDonald's. I mean, Kim Jong Un is wanting McDonald's to be a part of this deal. At least that's some of the inside sources we're hearing from, and some of the I've even seen a couple articles on the net about it. So, anyway, the man that's got the answers to help us look. The world's not prepared for a lot of things, and the guy with all the answers is Colin Plume from Noble Gold Investments. Colin, great to have you with us today.
Great to be here, Pastor Paul, and seems like the summit is a lot is happening. Kim Jong Un, obviously, he knows a thing or two about Big Macs, and it sounds like this is he's connected to our kind of American culture and thinks that bringing some capitalism and some family food will help see the deal. But I think there's going to have to be a lot of concessions on his part. And, I think we've never had an honest negotiation with North Korea. I mean, you can go back for, the last 5 or 6 administrations. And so it's hard to believe that they're going to be upfront and kind of truthful in this negotiation. But let's hope for it. I hope it goes well.
Yeah, I really do too. And all kidding aside, I mean, this is a serious thing. I mean, we're talking about, folks, first of all, whoever thought we would see the President of the United States sitting down with Kim Jong-un? So the fact that Trump has somehow orchestrated this thing, he used leverage on China, Colin. He threatened China by saying, if you don't help bring this guy to the table, we're going to put so many tariffs on you, you're going to be screaming. And It worked. It's worked. And Kim Jong-un is really so many presidents before, Colin, just gave his grandfather, his father, and him money.
Right.
And Trump says, no, we're not playing this game. So what does this mean? What does it mean?
Similar to the Iran deal that we just got out of, the Iran deal was based on us, giving Iran tons of money, and then the thought was that they would start to denuclearize, and that never really happened. So I hope we don't go into that kind of situation because we're $22 trillion in debt. We shouldn't be buying a country's favor so that they can do the right thing in terms of not having nuclear weapons. So it'll be interesting what we're going to give up and what they're going to give up, or if anything going to happen. I think it's hard for me to think that this president in North Korea will give it up, because that's really the last thing that puts him and that regime in that kind of that power. And everybody saw what happened to Gaddafi and how he was overthrown as soon as he gave up his nuclear weapons. And so I just, unfortunately, I don't think a deal is going to happen. I wish it were to happen, but I would be shocked to see if a deal happened today, especially this quickly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's going to be some kind of announcement tonight. I understand that they're going to start meeting at 9:00, which over there, that's 9 a.m. tomorrow. So at 9 p.m., they're going to go into this meeting and they're going to work through a working lunch. Now, Trump has already announced that he's coming home 12 hours early because the pre-negotiations have went so well that the ball has moved down the court quite a ways. But I don't know what that means. And I was thinking, Colin, if they're going to have a working lunch, maybe a Happy Meal would be a good idea. I mean,
it seems like it would make a lot. I mean, if Dennis Rodman's there, you're sitting down, you have Trump, you have Rodman, you have Kim Jong Un, you have a Happy Meal, and it just seems like it could be a kumbaya moment. But I have a hard time believing. It's just everything you can say anything. A lot of dictators say things. But to actually let people into North Korea, because that's what's going to have to happen. I mean, we're going to have to be able to send, inspectors into North Korea. We're going to have to open up the books. And I just think that a country that has controlled the people there in such a strong way through the internet, I mean, everything is controlled. The people there, they know nothing of the outside world, and to let us in there, to let capitalism and democracy through the door, seems pretty shocking. I think the only way they're going to do it, the only reason that it would make sense, is if North Korea is so broke that there's some kind of large financial compensation, and that's really what they need to survive. And that would be the only thing that makes sense for them to negotiate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think they are broke, busted, and disgusted. And if I know what Trump's doing, he's saying to China, "You're going to help pick up the tab. Japan, you're certainly going to help pay for this. South Korea, you're going to pay for a lot of this." And he's probably even hitting the Philippines up and Vietnam while he's at it. Of course, America will probably pay half of it. But at the end of the day, it has to be because Kim Jong-un really has no other option. He kind of looks desperate because, this guy runs over to China and he runs over to South Korea. Now he's in Singapore. I think he's hurting. But, you never know. These guys lie. They shoot people in the head. They feed them to dogs. Who knows what's going on? But one thing's for sure, I'm going to ask you this question. If Trump makes an announcement tonight that's really favorable, will the stock market, what will it do tomorrow?
I think if there's a real negotiation that is something that's going to happen, I think the stock market would definitely go up. If he comes out and says we're still negotiating, and depending, I think Trump, the nice thing about Trump as a president is that he doesn't really mince words. So if it goes the wrong way, I think he'll let everybody know, and I think that would have a negative effect on the stock market because people are kind of eagerly anticipating this situation. And I think that the downside with having two presidents meet so quickly in a negotiation, and a lot of people have talked about this, is typically you have people below you do the negotiation for months and months and sometimes years. When two presidents get in a room together, they want to make a deal, and if that deal doesn't happen, it can just blow up everything. And that's why, I think the scary thing about what could happen is that if this deal doesn't happen, there's been some pretty heavy talk about us going to a potential war, and that could send some pretty negative shockwaves through the equity markets. And looming war, economic distress, anything like that is typically not good for the financial markets. So I think tonight, what happens tonight could have a really, it's going to have a real effect one way or another, shoot the markets up or down pretty significantly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Colin. Folks, this is Colin Plume with us. He's the expert when it comes to what the markets will do. Not only the markets, but precious metals, Bitcoin. Colin Plume, noblegoldinvestments.com. Check out what they've got going because they are really a great company, family-owned, Christian company, just great people, and they truly will treat you right. Let me just ask you this question. Bitcoin, let's talk about the markets. People aren't prepared. Look, there's articles just come out, Colin. People are not prepared for retirement. People aren't, they're not, a lot of folks ain't prepared with their soul. I can tell you that from my perspective, for sure, but they're not ready. They don't know what's coming down the road, and they don't know what to do. Am I right about this?
Yeah, the article you're talking about, they did a study. They took many countries in the world and did a survey on, basic questions like, is it better to own one stock or buy, mutual fund? Which would yield a higher return, or which one would be better? And it's shocking, even the U.S., which I think was the country that answered the question the best, only about 40% of the people that got that question right. The rest of the world in Europe, obviously, they don't really handle. A lot of Europeans don't really handle their own investments. They have pensions. They were in the 30% that got that question right. And then the even scarier one is what we talked about, which is buying power, inflation. They basically asked a basic question about inflation, the cost of goods going up, and only about 15 or 20% of the people of the world were able to actually understand what inflation is. And I think that because we've been on this fiat money system for so long, and I always keep this on my desk. This is a great example of inflation. This is a $10 billion note from Zimbabwe, and this was a real note that was in circulation. And the scary thing is that people are like, oh, that was something 100 years ago or 50 years ago. This note was in circulation in 2008. So
Wow.
even in today's world, we have currencies that are getting devalued with this printing of money at this high rate. And that's the scary thing, is people don't realize how much of their buying power is getting sucked away every day. Everything, just go back 10 years, easy analogy. In our gold investment guide, we talk about this. We have this in there. If you just look at milk, a gallon of milk, 10, 11 years ago is $1. Now it's between $2.50 and $3.50, depending where you are, organic or not organic, whole, whatever you're buying, that could be $4 or $5. But that's just one item. If you look across the board, I mean, everything, gasoline now, skyrocketing, energy cost, all these things are going to push us up. And the one big negative thing about Trump going after these tariffs, yeah, in the long run, it's good for us. But in the short term, what is a tariff going to do when other countries are going to also put tariffs on us? What that does to us is that just brings the price and the cost of all of our goods up. So, in the short term, I think it's going to increase the price of goods. In the long term, I think hopefully it'll have a positive effect for us. But I think people don't realize that the cost of goods is going up every day, and that has to have an effect on our currency, and it has to have an effect on our stock market. It has to. Eventually, these factors will create some type of correction. And as we mentioned, Paul, we always talked about, Pastor Paul, we're due for a correction.
Yes, we are. And I tell you, I thought it was happening there a little bit when it went down to about 24th. The stock market got down to 24,000, even dipped below it. Today, I see it's back up over 25,000. I think we're going to have a plus day when the market closes the day, maybe 50 points up or something to close. But so the correction may not be over yet. Now, is Bitcoin maybe going through the correction? Because now they lost 12% of their value yesterday. They're down to 6,760. I mean, the question I'd have for you, Colin, for a lot of our viewers out there are going to ask this question. Does that mean they should buy right now, or should they stay away?
So, Warren Buffett, obviously brilliant investor, the Oracle of Omaha, he's come out against Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and he doesn't understand it. But also keep in mind, he didn't understand Google. He didn't understand Facebook. He didn't understand he's missed the boat on so many tech companies. So you do have this, old school mentality, this equity buying, buy low, sell high mentality that are in these traditional companies. And then you have people that say Bitcoin is the future. I've seen, Bitcoin go to 100,000 stories, 1 million. A lot of very savvy tech investors believe it's going to continue to rise. It's an alternative investment that is unlike any other. The boom in tech that we saw, the early 2000s, and even continuing to rise, that wealth creator that we saw in tech moves up steadily, but Bitcoin creates millionaires overnight, and it has created millionaires overnight. But also it's volatile. It hit almost 20,000 December last year. So I say, Pastor Paul, it's for the risk averse investor, someone that understands that, I could put some money here. It could go up 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times, but it also could pull back. So it's not for everybody. I think it's for someone that understands that risk and says, yeah, you know what, if I put a little bit of my net worth here and it goes up 25, 30 times, it's unlike any other investment out there. But I have to understand that it could also, drop 12% in a day, which it did from yesterday to today. So the nice thing about our program, the thing that people don't have to worry about, which is part of the reason that the price of Bitcoin has been so volatile, is there's been a lot of hacks in Bitcoin. And I think with our program within the IRA, they don't have to worry about that. It is secure. The Bitcoin is stored in cold storage. So if they do invest in it, they know it's going to be safe. They just have to understand that it's, you watch it day to day. It's that heart monitor is just it's fluttering, and if you're someone that is on some heart medication, it's not going to be something for you.
All right. So in other words, it's got to be some of the heavy hitters that can play with that kind of money. If not, it's, so back to that. So let's look at when we said the article came out. People are not prepared for retirement. They're just not prepared for a lot of things in life. Folks haven't got their soul right with the Lord, so a lot of people aren't prepared in that area. Sure. Sometimes I think people live, Colin, their lives. We kind of, if we're not careful, a lot of folks live just footloose and fancy free. But time runs out. It doesn't take long. If you're out there working every day in the market, I remember I was 30 years old. I still I could take the world by the tail. Then all of a sudden, next day I woke up, I was 40. Then I woke up and I was 50. And then I'm starting to think, wait a minute, now what? So what should people do? I mean, what should they do if they got a 401k or they got an IRA or they just now got an inheritance of money, just came in, they don't know what to do with it? What is your recommendation? Precious metals, the stock market, where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, listen. I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't advise anyone where to put their money. We do alternative assets. We do precious metals, gold and silver. We do Bitcoin. I think what it comes down to, and I think it's a pretty easy thing. If someone gave you, someone gave you $100,000 today, would you put that $100,000 in the stock market, or would you put a portion there? Maybe put a portion into metals. Maybe buy some real estate. Would you diversify? And I think most people today would diversify. So that's really what we talk about here at Noble Gold Investments, is not to put all your eggs in one basket. Have different investments out there. And gold and silver is a very secure investment. It's something that's great against inflation. It's great when the stock market has a correction. Those are the times you want to get into it, but it's a stable return investment. So it's not, the idea that you're going to, get rich quick with gold and silver. That's not the premise. It's something that you buy and you sock it away and you keep it for a rainy day. And with everything that's happening out there in the world, gold and silver will go up because they are real currency. There is a limited supply. There's only enough gold in the world to fit in 2.5 size Olympic swimming pools. And most of the gold in the world is not going to get sold. It's never going to trade. It's in a central bank. It's in China. It's in Russia. So I think that knowing that a lot of the gold is just taken off the table, it gives it that scarcity. It gives it that limited supply that everybody wants in every investment. And so I think it's if someone has an IRA, they're concerned, a 401k, have them call in. We'll send the free guides, give them information, answer questions, and then decide if it's the right investment for them.
Folks, the number to call if you want to call into Noble Gold Investments is 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. And just talk to them, all right? Colin and the staff he has there, they will just talk to you. They want to hear your life cycle. I think that's real important. And then they can help guide you, maybe help direct you, give you some advice, but mainly help assist you in making the decisions with your 401k or your IRA or an inheritance that you may have just received or an insurance settlement that you just may have received, whatever that case may be. These are the guys to call and let them help you. Colin, I think that when we look at on the world stage, there's been a lot of criticism about Trump. He does a lot of stuff. He don't pull no punches. But look at the economy. The unemployment is the best it's been in 18 years. And and did you see the deal here? There's more jobs right now than we have people who are searching for work. How can this be? What's going on?
I think it comes down to our education system, frankly. I think that, I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe, who talks about not everybody is meant to go to college, that we need to ramp up our trade schools. We need to, because a lot of the positions are not positions that people need to go to college with. And I think that's the big issue, is that you get people go to college, they come out $100,000 in debt, they get this communications degree or something that has no use. And these employers say, okay, great, what experience you have? And they have none. Whereas, I know we need nurses. I know we need medical techs. These are all jobs that are, Nurses, could be 4 years, sometimes could be 2 years. Medical technicians could be 1 or 2 years. We need to ramp these things up and get these people employed. And, those are jobs that pay a good wage. And so we need mechanics. There's a lot of positions that, people just won't do anymore, unfortunately. And I think that's the next thing that hopefully Trump can kind of tackle is we need to get people the skills to fill all these jobs that are out there, so that we're not looking from other places to bring people in, that we're just dealing with the people that we have in this country, and we can go ahead and make sure that they fulfill all the jobs that we need.
Now, Colin, you talked about something called debt, and school loans are killing people. Obamacare is killing people. And but let me ask you a question. What about the American debt? $22 trillion. At some point, does that catch up with us?
It seems like it never does, because we just continue to go in debt and debt. And, I was reading about, Andrew Jackson, the president. That was the last time we had no debt. He was the only president to ever pay off our debt.
Wow.
So that was, 150 years ago. So I think that eventually, having some debt within the country is good, but this level, this 22 trillion, is just a level that we can never repay. And I was reading about, the amount of these interest payments in the next 6 to 7 years. Our interest on our debt will be $1 trillion, which is actually more than the budget for our the country's defense. Because I guess our defense budget's like $880 billion. So in 5 years, we're looking at our interest payments. So basically, it's kind of like your credit card payments are going to exceed, what you're bringing in and what you're paying for in your house, and that's what we're coming to. So we can only continue to pay back that money if interest rates are low. It looks like interest rates are going up. So there is a debt bomb out there. When it'll hit us, obviously nobody knows, but I think that our credit and our debt is not where it should be, and unfortunately, unless Trump's going to write a check for $22 trillion, I don't think that debt's going away anytime soon.
No, I don't think so. As a matter of fact, you guys right there at noblegoldinvestments.com, they have a book out on government lies. I think you might even have 2 of them out, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys are saying the debt really is about $100 trillion. Brock, put that on the screen. There it is. Government Lies Exposed. Part 2 is the U.S. debt tops $100 trillion. What are you talking about here, Colin?
Unfunded liabilities. So that's the money out there that we owe, money that we can't pay back. So you're talking about Medicare, Medicaid. You factor in defense, loans, bonds. All these liabilities that are out there, sort of like when you look at your debt as a person, you have your mortgage and you have credit and you have all these things that are your debt. They're unfunded. These are debts that you're going to pay in the future. Our country debt, if you look at it, and this report came out in February. This is from the government. This isn't, math that's out of nowhere. But basically, our unfunded liabilities is about $107 trillion of money that we can't pay back, unfortunately.
So is there a way, now look, bankruptcy is something people personally do when they really get in over their head, they get underwater.
Yeah.
Can a country write off its debt? What would happen can a country do this?
Countries have written off their bonds, but what ends up happening is that the bondholders they'll continue to start to seize assets. So we've seen it in Argentina, we've seen it in some other countries where they just basically stop paying on the bond debt. And the holders, typically hedge funds, will just go in and start seizing assets. So in a way, what could happen is that China could say, you got to repay this. If not, you have to give us, I'm going to get through an example that's not true, but like, let's say you have to give us the Golden Gate Bridge, or you have to give us Fort Knox, or they're going to have to, they'll start coming after our assets. And so it hasn't happened. I don't know if it'll ever happen, because obviously we both benefit, China and us both benefit by trade. But they could, in theory, kind of like if you stop paying your mortgage, the bank comes and sees your house. It's the same idea, really.
So it really does put America in a tough jam, because if we're going to pay, let's say in a few years, we're going to be up to paying $1 trillion in interest. That's a big millstone around anybody's neck. And I know we got the greatest economy in the world, and so we can keep playing along. We can keep funding this thing, but really we do need to make some hard decisions, and that's really where the Congress comes in. And so what should the average American do right now? We got people getting ready to retire. They're saying, okay, what do? I got a 401k, I got an IRA, I just got whatever it is, and they're saying, what should I do with this? Colin, is silver where I need to go? Do I need to go to gold? Gold's kind of held, it stood the test of time. I mean,
yeah,
but
gold has been very steady. Up last year, gold was up about 13%. I like silver right now. A lot of our investors are buying silver. Silver's at a very low point, and obviously it's used in everything that everybody's talking about, from solar panels to electric vehicles. I like the silver usage right now. I like where it's priced. So we are seeing a lot of people buy that. A lot of people just call us and getting some silver delivered to their doorstep and just socking it away in a safe or safety deposit box. So I think both metals are good if you can do a little bit of both. But I think it's a good time to take some fiat money or some debt money, because if we're talking about all the debt our currency's in, take some of that debt and move it into something that you own that has no debt on it. Gold and silver, you own it. There's no debt there. So I'd say get away from some of this debt, get into something tangible that you own. It's not a fund. It's owned by you, and just be prepared for anything that can happen.
Folks, even when we talk about gold a little bit, in the Old Testament, it says that there's a day coming when people are going to throw their gold and silver in the street because basically they can't buy anything with it. But if you go back and read the scripture to tell you, that's in the days of wrath, okay? That's when God's pouring out his wrath upon the world. We're not in that time yet, folks. So nobody's going to be out there running, throwing gold and silver in the street, unless if you see that, you're in the apocalypse, okay? And you also miss the bus, all right? You don't want to be there. So anyway, Colin, let me help me out here. We talked about Singapore. We talked about the things that are taking place on a global scale. If North Korea and South Korea, if they literally end the Korean War, and I don't know what you do with the nukes that they've already got. I don't know if Russia takes some of them or China but your point is there has to be a mechanism of safety, inspectors to keep him from backsliding. And if that happens and we keep our word, I think Trump's willing to keep his word with Kim Jong-un if he does the right thing. Maybe this really takes a lot of pressure off everybody. And maybe this tariff war. Let me ask you this, the G7. Trump went in there basically and said, it's out of whack. You guys got to lower your tariffs now. I'll see you later. Didn't go over very well. What's your reaction on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, unfortunately, there's, some of these things, they need to be built over time. I think that no leader of any country kind of wants to be slapped in the face. And I think that when the numbers that are being thrown around, the amount of tariffs, that the 20-25%, I mean, these are huge numbers. Yeah. And I get it. I get the fact that, he wants to make, BMWs and Mercedes, and, he's talking about some of these cars that really the prices should be much higher, but we don't put the same kind of tariffs that other countries do on our automobiles, which puts us in a disadvantage. But I think, unfortunately, there's going to be a backlash here with this, because when the economy is good and you see trade is happening and free trade, I think there's certain things you just kind of want to step back and let things continue. And I think when you're putting too many cogs in the wheel and you maybe make it a little more difficult for countries to trade and barter with us and for us to get their goods, I think it could put a wrench in the economy, especially with interest rates going up. I mean, we got a lot of negative factors out there that are going to come in the near future. So I am concerned about some of these, and the potential trade war is definitely looming. It's going to loom over the stock market.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I will say, now I just got back from India and I just got back Friday from Israel. In India, I saw one American SUV. I was there 10 days. That's a country of 1.5 billion people, the size of Texas. Now, in Israel, I saw 3 American SUVs. Everything else was European, everywhere. So I understand America wants to sell their cars more in other nations besides just here. But one thing is, we got big cars and they don't fit in those little European streets, okay? You can't, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we got to be careful. I understand Trump's wanting to fix a lot of stuff, want to make America great again, but at the same time, it can't be at the cost of the world. And so there's a process. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Got to go a little slower. But
slower. Yeah. That's it. We got a baby step here, and yeah, exactly. Rome wasn't built in a day, so we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see. I mean, obviously everybody wants peace, and they want to put a situation in North and South Korea. We could get rid of the DMZ, and really, I think all those things would be positive. It's just hard for me to trust such a young and kind of volatile dictator and really trust that we're going to get the full story. But, who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Well, Dennis Rodman's in there, so anything could happen. So, folks, this is Colin Plume, NobleGoldInvestments.com. Go over there and see what they got going. Let them help you. Or you can call them at 877-646-5347. Colin, it's an honor and it's a blessing to have you on. I always enjoy our conversations, and I appreciate what you guys are doing for the public out there.
Thank you, Pastor Paul. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Looking forward to talking to you again.
All right, folks. That's Colin Plume, NobleGoldInvestments.com. I'll be back a little bit later today with more.